Hello, everybody, and welcome on into Sidelines. I'm Drew Patrick. On this episode, we review the first weekend of athletic competition with baseball's head coach and a couple of players. Plus, we talk spectator guidelines with Director of Athletics Peggy. Welcome on back into Sidelines. Joining me at the desk here is head baseball coach Andrew Chalot. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks.
So, how did it feel for you to finally get back out there, coach again, and get games in?
It was good. We needed it. We needed to get out and play before this coming weekend with conference coming up. So it was good to get out there and get 4 games.
So let's talk about some of those. The first one, again with this team, we saw it actually at the tail end of the last year. They fight back at the end of games. What did you see from that first game?
I think the same thing we saw in all of them. Look, all the games were close throughout, and every game we did some good things and we did some bad things, and it just in close games we just did a few bad things that hurt ourselves in some situations, and it cost us a couple. Just kind of our own mistakes. We kind of got in our own way a few times, but there were a lot of positives to take from the weekend as well.
Then game 2, and that one didn't go the way, but very impressed with Kobe Schimmel with 13 Ks in that game.
Yeah, he pitched well. In fact, the entire pitching staff pitched pretty well on a weekend. We struck out 41 guys in 29 innings, which is a very good ratio to have early. Like I said, 41, 29 innings. Of those 29 innings, almost half of them were pitched by freshmen or redshirt freshmen this weekend. So that was, and to be honest, like they were some pretty tight strike zones we were pitching to this weekend too. So I thought overall we threw the ball pretty well each game. Kind of each pitcher made a mistake or two, and we were playing at a field where the ball was carrying out to left field, and we kind of got hurt by the few mistakes we did make during the game.
And then you come back the next day, and you get another taste of something new with extra innings. And I want to start with that game before we let that translate. But extras, how does the mindset change, especially early in a season for an extra inning game?
To be honest, the extra inning game didn't bother me at all. Like I said, we have a lot of new faces. Kind of the plan was to get a lot of arms in, but we kind of ran into a situation in extra innings there where our guy was pitching pretty well, and he had pitched well enough. I was really giving him the option of whether he wanted to come out or not, and he didn't want to come out of the game. So, extra innings didn't bother me at all. It was more at bats early in the season. It was more innings pitched for our pitching staff early in the season. So, I kind of enjoyed it.
Getting a win like that for your team, how much momentum is a game like that to be able to pull one out like that? That was back and forth the entire game, and then forcing it into extras and then getting the victory in extra innings.
I think it was important because those are the types of games we need to learn how to win. Look, the conference, everybody knows the PSAC conference is so good top to bottom that you're very rarely just going to show up on a Saturday and go beat someone by 10 runs. It just doesn't happen very often in our conference because everybody from top to bottom is so good. That really, like a close game, an extra inning type of game, when both teams are playing well, that's pretty much how the game's going to go every weekend.
And that led into the next game. Did having the extra time affect? Did you see any effect on your team for that second game?
No, I think you saw it a little bit at the plate for both teams in that second game. Look, a lot of these kids have not played in over a year, and here they are basically playing 4 games in a little bit over a 24-hour stretch. So I think you had some tired legs in game 4, and we did a good job rotating some guys in and out throughout the weekend, but we still had 4 or 5 guys of ours that played all games, and I think you just had some tired legs, which led to some tired at bats, and I think that's why it was one of the factors of why it was such a well-pitched game the last game. And then both pitchers just threw very well on top of it.
So overall, from this first weekend, what is your biggest takeaway from this first appearance of 2021?
I think some people may think it's weird that we went 1-3, and I'm very encouraged. But we did a lot of things well. The extra base hits were there. That was kind of an emphasis for us. Is we got to hit more doubles and home runs. I think we hit more home runs the first weekend than we hit in 13 games last year. And then what I was talking about earlier, pitching staff threw well, and a lot of those innings were consumed by some younger guys. Some guys that really I needed that first weekend to see if I can count on them the rest of the year, and they all stepped up and threw well. And then there's obviously some things that we need to work on. Defense was shaky at times. Base running was not up to par. 2 areas that's really not shocking that you're not 100% sharp on early. Just things you can't simulate in the gym. And we practiced on a turf field one time before we were out. So we were outside for practice one time before we played. So we're getting some good weather this week, and those are a couple areas that we're going to be, now that we're going to be able to be outside, that we can focus on and work on and clean up.
So this weekend, you go from one Rams to the in-conference Rams, one of the in-conference Rams, with Westchester, a very good team. What are you looking for with this matchup?
Just compete. I think it will give us a good idea where we stand. Look, the 4 pitchers that we saw last weekend for Jefferson, they were pretty legit arms, and they're on par with what we're going to see. I think that will help us that we got to see it one time before we go this weekend, and it's a tremendous challenge for us. Look, we get to play. It's exciting for me. We get to play a team that's won a national championship 2 of the last 6 years, and you can find out really early in your season where you stand.
This game also is actually kind of a neutral-ish field for you guys, playing at Flemington, New Jersey. Do you think that's going to have any effect on you guys?
Not really. We're, to be honest, we're kind of used to it. I mean, look, we're the northernmost school, and in early March, our field very rarely is ready to play up here, and well, we have to travel. They have to travel a little bit too. It's an hour-and-a-half drive for them. So both teams will be traveling, and I don't think it will be having an effect. I mean, we're pretty used to it.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back into Sidelines. Joining me now at the desk to talk about the first weekend is Ben Osborne and Brittain Shander. Thank you both so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
So let's do just that. Let's talk about that first weekend. First of all, how good did it feel to just finally get back out there and play a game?
It felt very good. I think someone said it was about 363 days since we were on a field since last March. It felt really nice being out on the field instead of being in the gym cooped up. So it's very nice to be out there.
Yeah, it was good stepping out on the field for the first time in a while since last year. Got to see what a bunch of guys can do.
And Brittain, clearly you were holding something in there. First at bat of the season. You go yard. Talk me through that at bat.
Yeah, just excited to get in there. A little nerves stepping in the box for the first time this year. 2-2 count and threw me a high fastball and just turned on a little bit and I hit my first ever home run. It was just very exciting and very great experience to have with this great group of guys. Everyone cheered me on and it's just nice to start the season.
So that first day, what were your guys' goals during those first 2 games? Because like you said, you hadn't been in a game situation in almost a year.
I would say it's a great learning experience, especially this whole weekend, not just for us guys to see what we can do out on the field for the first time, but for Coach too, as he can see where he likes guys at and moving guys around in the lineup, moving guys around on the field. It's a great learning experience for all of us to just be out there finally.
Yeah, it was kind of an eye-opener to see like where kids are going to play. We saw in the gym how kids were, and we're testing their abilities out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to day 2, and quite a game there to start. And Ben, I want to talk specifically with you and heroics there towards the end. Tie the game up and then ultimately get the winning runs. Talk me through those 2 at-bats.
So they were both off 2 outs. My first at-bat, I was thinking to myself I didn't do too well my first couple at-bats, so I was just thinking just put the ball in the play and make them field it. And so I just got my pitch and hit it right back in the middle. I knew they were going to intentionally walk Tyler Malco because he's just good. That's the only way to put it. And then, so I knew my opportunity was coming.
And then their extra innings, how does the mindset change, especially early in the season for an extra inning game?
You just gotta put the ball in play, make the other team make the plays that they need to, but just gotta be aggressive, especially in those late innings, put the pressure on them and try to score runs.
Yeah, it was a good feeling to get our first win under our belt, and hopefully we take that energy into this upcoming weekend and keep working forward.
So how can you do exactly that? What is the step to take that momentum into this next weekend against a very good opponent?
Luckily, we have nice weather out this week, so hopefully we can get out on the turf and on our baseball field and hopefully work on some things we have to, and we'll get moving.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I want to talk, you guys also as teammates watching this game with everyone, was there people who impressed you for this first weekend?
Yeah, I'd like to point out our 2 freshman pitchers that started both of our 3rd and 4th games. They did a great job. Justin threw very well in that 3rd game, and Cologne came in afterwards and absolutely threw the best game I've ever seen him throw with 6.5. And then our 4th game, Eric Gustafson came in and threw super well. He dueled with the other pitcher, and that's what I like to see out of these young guys coming in and doing everything they can to help us win games.
How about you, Ben?
I'd like to point out Asaf and Tyler Melko are 2 transfers coming into the lineup, making an impact, really showing that they've been around the game of baseball for a little bit and they're bringing their talents to help us.
Some moonshots there.
Yeah.
Some of their home runs. So going back to this upcoming week, Westchester's a very good team. What is your goal, and what do you have to do to steal some of those games?
Got to be aggressive. We learned this weekend we got to be more aggressive, hitting the fastball early in the count and bringing that intensity to these games with such a good team as Westchester. Putting the ball in play and being aggressive is gonna do it for us.
Yeah, like Shander said, putting the ball in play. Good things will come when you put the ball in.
Yeah, our pitching too, I think. If our guys can throw strikes and get the outs and the defense behind them, it's gonna be a good series.
So this series also is at a neutral site. How much of an effect does that have on you guys, or is it an effect at all?
I really don't think it'll have too much effect on us because we're just going to keep playing our game and keep working hard no matter where we're playing at.
Yeah, especially with us. We just played at a turf field over at Father Judge against Jefferson. I think playing at Diamond Nation, it'll be kind of the same feeling as past weekend. Just be able to go out and just play as we did.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back into Sidelines. Joining me now at the desk is Director of Athletics Peggy Carl, here to talk about Spectator's return to Mansfield University and some more. Peggy, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Drew. It's been a while.
Yes, sports are back.
Sports, thank the good Lord, are back.
So Mansfield University has decided that we are allowing fans at a specific with specific limitations, COVID limitations. What are some of those important things for spectators to know?
Sure. I think the basics, right? Pay attention to your washing of your hands. If you feel ill or you have a fever or you've been in contact with somebody who you know has COVID, please don't come to a game. If all of those things are good and you want to come out for a game, masks are required on the Mansfield University campus. We will strongly encourage you to socially distance. Obviously, a player's mother and father and siblings could be a pod and can sit closely together, but they need to be 6 feet from another family's representatives. So just the basics that everybody knows about.
So ultimately, the decision to have fans back, what went into allowing Mansfield parents to really be able to see their kids play?
Sure. A lot of thought, a lot of really careful conversation, not only between myself and my PSAC colleagues, but between myself and the COVID response team here on campus, myself, my supervisor, the president, just trying to make sure that we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and made sure that, at the end of the day, our utmost priority is for the health and safety of our students and our student athletes, in my case, and so making sure that we just do everything possible to protect them.
Yeah, this year has been quite insane of a year. Let's talk about that specifically and trying to stay with the safety guidelines and the safety and well-being of the student athlete being the most important thing. What have been the challenges with that this year?
Well, I think the challenges with that this year are the challenges with it all the time, right? We're dealing with students and student athletes who, when you practice, you sweat. And it's really uncomfortable to have to wear a mask while you're practicing. But that's sort of the price of admission, and just helping students understand that that's the price of admission, I think, has been our most difficult challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting too with this year, and I know that the fight and the urge to get athletes back on the field was always there, and for the athletes not in season to still be able to practice. How important was that to you to be able to give the student athletes that opportunity?
Drew, it was super important. I mean, I think, it's funny, I was talking to a colleague this coming Friday will be a year from Black Friday 2020. And I think about how the then baseball players, softball players, track and field student athletes here at Mansfield responded to that. And knowing what we had gone through all fall, it was really important for me to do everything I could to try to get particularly those student athletes an opportunity to play this spring. So yeah, it means the world to me that we're out doing what we all love to do.
And from your perspective, to see the teams in action this past weekend, what did that feel for you?
It fills my heart with so much happiness and joy. I can't even, and I have to imagine that the players on both teams felt the same sort of love and joy for their opportunity to be out there doing what they love to do.
Absolutely. It was exciting to watch. I definitely let out a bunch of yells before, after, during, all the above. So looking at COVID-19 and this year specifically, from your perspective, as the director of athletics here, what have been your challenges and adaptations that you have had to make this year?
You know, the big challenge is, athletics is such a social enterprise. And maybe more so than any other on any college campus. And I don't know that for a fact, but that's sort of my gut. You know, we all walk and talk up and down the hallways with each other. We share coffee together. We share a meal together, or we used to, once a week. You know, we're very much intertwined with each other's lives. We know each other's spouses, friends, partners, sons, daughters, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, being pulled away from that has really been the hardest part. You know, everything else is just geography. It's just, doing your work from a different place. And yes, you have to get a little bit creative about how to be energetic when you're in front of a Zoom camera as opposed to being face-to-face with somebody. But for me, that's really been the challenge, is keeping high energy in a room by myself, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge on those Zoom calls to just keep that energy up. I agree with you. So looking forward here, what are the goals of the Mansfield Athletic Department from your perspective that you want to continue to push forward to this year?
Through the end of this year? Well, I think we're always trying to push to make sure that our student athletes have the best possible experience, that they're being coached by coaches who are knowledgeable, who are making them better players, who are creating a team chemistry that helps the team move forward and get better. And that gets reflected in wins and losses, obviously, so moving the needle there. Graduation rates, retention rates, GPA, all those measurable things, and moving the needle in those areas is also really critically important. So, this year I think we've done well. Our recruiting numbers seem to be stabilized and going in the right direction, so I'm encouraged.
Well, Peggy, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on.
I'm super happy, and anytime you want me, I'm yours.
Well, thank you. And Sidelines continues after this. Do not go anywhere. What characteristics exemplify a Mansfield Mountaineer? Dedicated, motivated, unified, together. From the tops of the peak to the deep valleys, Mounties stand together. That truth has never changed, and that truth will never change. Though things may be done differently, we still stand strong. 250 student athletes, 13 programs, one mountain, one season. That's going to do it for this show, folks. To stay up to date on all things Mansfield Athletics, head over to GoMounties.com. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.